right, what's up? What's up, everybody?
Peace, love, and light. Peace, love, and light to everyone. Thank you again for joining us again. We are Love, Space, and Time. I am Misha.
And I am Vernon. Welcome to this episode 11, the 11th episode. We are well on our way, on a roll, and we are doing our daggone thing.
We're absolutely doing our daggone thing. So we are here today, July 14th, and today's episode, number 11, is about financial planning in a long distance relationship. So, before the show, Vernon and I were kind of like talking about where we are in that whole process, and we still have yet some work to do. So, we'll be learning and growing right along with you in this process of planning for yourself financially and planning to be with your partner long term. So, we
Yeah,
put some questions in the chat.
that was one of the topics that came up for discussion from the book. They were asking when is too soon to start talking about finances, and bringing that up as a discussion point. When do you share? When do you put your finances on the table with this person that you are in this long distance relationship with?
Yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and jump in and answer that question. I believe that it's a great conversation to have when you have decided that you want to actually be in a relationship with this person. If you're just in the getting to know stage and talking to see if the chemistry is there, that might be something you can kind of like have surface level conversation about it. But when you've decided that you want to actually be in a long-term relationship with your person, then yes, go ahead and have that conversation. And I don't know how comfortable anybody would feel as far as like, okay, here's my tax returns, here's my bank statements. You may not do all of that in the beginning. That may be something you kind of like spread out over different conversations where you're talking about, okay, this is one of the challenges that I'm facing. This is a challenge that I'm facing, and this is my plan to resolve it. Or even asking your partner, like, what would you do in this situation? Because like I was sharing with you earlier, I have had the hardest time just trying to have enough willpower and discipline to save money.
Hmm.
It seems like every time I get a little piece of change, here comes something that I wasn't expecting necessarily, that I have to, or I feel like I have to use the money that I've been saving up for it. So that's one of the challenges I'm facing. And I depend heavily on you for, just your commentary about me saving and having better spending practices. So that's my long answer to your question.
All right. Well, I wasn't necessarily putting it out there as a question to you, but in general, I look at this like it's a lifestyle thing. It's a way of life. It's like people who want to get healthier, people who want to lose weight, people who want to start working out and getting more fit. You can't look at where you are in that area of your life now. And if you keep on approaching that area of your life like you've been approaching that life, is anything going to change? Is anything ever going to get different? No, you're not going to get the results that you really want. So just like all those other areas, this area, if people want to stop living from paycheck to paycheck, if people want to finally say, okay, well, shoot, after the last 10 months, I finally accumulated something in savings, or there was something I said I wish I could do or I want to do, but it's never going to happen unless you take action towards making it happen. So that it's got to be a gradual change, but it's got to become a part of who you are, so that whatever it was that was holding you back before, that's no longer in you. Whatever is different that you need to implement, that's who you are now. You become this new person with a whole new realm of possibilities before you. So one of the we talked about this. I think we started our relationship on this. I recommend this. I try to have general conversations about this as much as I can. But this book, The Richest Man in Babylon,
Mm-hmm.
that just common sense. Maybe I shouldn't say common sense because maybe it's not so common, right? But it's just
Sometimes.
old school wisdom and good points, good practices about how you manage and handle your money. You spend 40 hours a week working so that you can get the money that you need to do what you have to do. And why be careless with it?
And I think that's a great segue because you talked about, making changes in your lives and changing the way that we practice and the habits that we have with money. And I think one of the foundational questions that we have to ask ourselves is, what are our thoughts and feelings about money? What type of environment did we grow up in coming up?
Mm-hmm.
When it came to money, how are we, what's the question? How do I want to ask this question? What is our history with money as far as our family and how we grew up? Some of us may have grown up wealthy and had no discipline when it comes to money because everything was being given to us every time we asked for it, spoiled, for lack of a better term. Some of us may have grown up being poor and money was always tight, and we just didn't have a lot. So now that has affected us as adults in the way that we handle money when we get it. Everybody's heard of the term saving for a rainy day. Well, what are our thoughts about saving, or what are our thoughts about, spending our money on things that are above electricity and water and food?
Right.
How do we, what thoughts and feelings and emotions are ingrained in us about money and finances based on how we grew up?
Yeah, a lot of that stuff runs deep. It runs deep. So I think everybody needs to take some time and really look at that important area of life for themselves, figure out where you are and where you really want to go and what needs to change, because what got you here won't necessarily get you there.
Yeah, and if I could just share a personal story of my own,
Don't
over
get
the
too
last
personal
few.
now.
Huh?
I said, don't get too personal
I'll share enough.
now. Okay.
But in my whole soul searching, finding myself um place in life that I started really a few years ago and still am to a certain degree, I've had to really examine how I felt about money. And as a mom with children, I'm sure other, women can relate to, putting everything that you have into your children, pouring your money and your resources into your children to make sure that they had what they needed.
Mhm.
I did all of that. And so as my children got older and they depended less and less and less upon me, it was a struggle for me still to spend money on myself
Mhm.
and not feel guilty about it and not feel like I didn't deserve it, even though I was the one who put the time and the effort and the work in, to earn it.
Mhm.
So that was something that I am still having to deal with myself, and then just also delving into, the power of our words and, you know, being okay with, saying, all of my needs are met, because that is one of my favorite mantras that I say to myself, because based on the fact that I didn't have a lot growing up and sometimes money was hard to come by. One of my favorite mantras is I have everything that I need. All of my needs are met. And so that helps me to deal with the negative self-talk around money.
Mhm.
And I know I can't be the only person that experiences that. So I know it's a journey getting to a better place and feeling positive about money and not letting the lack of money affect your mood.
Right. Right. Because
I
there's
think
if
that's a
you
big one.
focus, if you want to focus on limitations and what you can't do, like you said, the lack of money is you can keep yourself stuck and focused on that all day long,
Mhm.
every day. And where attention goes, where energy goes, that's what the area that starts to grow.
That's
So
where your focus is, right?
that's where your focus is. So if you're constantly focusing on lack and not having enough, what do you think is going to manifest in your life? You're always going to find situations where you don't have enough. Why not try to
Hmm.
put some different ideas in your mind, and create that reality for yourself? Many people, and to a degree, it goes beyond just what you say to yourself. You can't just affirmation yourself into different situations.
You got to have practices.
You got to put it into practice. Yeah, it's good to have that mindset. That's where it starts. I'm not going to discount that. But yeah, there should always be some follow-up action to that affirmation and to that mindset shift. So if people say, I believe in abundance, I believe in having everything that I need. Okay, well, how do you act when you have everything that you need? What do you do so that you can have everything that you need? You were saying something earlier. People may have grown up wealthy and no discipline and had everything handed to them. But another side of the coin is wealthy people have an incredible amount of discipline. There's certain things they absolutely do. There's certain things they absolutely
don't do.
Right. And they don't make they don't blur the lines. That's how they are wealthy, and that's how they stay wealthy. Maybe they did have everything handed to them, but they sure know how to keep it. And poor people, a lot of times when you think about it, one of the questions, check this out. One of the questions that I have here in the comments, what is the first thing you do when you get paid? There's a difference between people who are, working, trying to make ends meet, living from paycheck to paycheck. There's a difference between what they do when they get their paycheck and what people who already have lots of money do. And it's not that they can't do the same things. It's just different decisions and the different reasoning behind why different decisions are made. There's some people who, when they get their paycheck, first thing they do is figure out what bills they're going to pay. They pay all of the bills until everything in that paycheck is gone. And then they realize, man, I didn't have enough. I still got bills left to pay.
One of the memes that I saw circulated around a lot was, I paid my rent, now I can starve in my own house. And I'm like, no, I don't want to do that.
Right.
I don't want to do that.
That should, something about that should say wrong answer.
Wrong answer. So one of the first things, according to the richest man in Babylon, one of the first things that you should do when you get paid is pay yourself.
That's right. Pay yourself first. There's a novel concept. Look at that. Imagine if every time you get $1,000, every time you get $100, 10% of that goes in the pot for you to pay your future self. You cannot spend it. You cannot blow it. You cannot splurge. You cannot pay somebody else with it. Pay your future self.
I'm glad that you haven't given up on me, because this has definitely been a journey as far as me and my impulse shopping. I'm getting better.
You are getting better. I am seeing improvement, and I am encouraging the improvement that I see. It's a real thing. There are lots of people, and you know what? Nobody should feel bad about where they are, especially if they've gotten to the point where they can finally acknowledge where they are, acknowledge that a change is needed, and they are starting to take the steps in the right direction. It's never too late. I just watched a podcast about people who were in their 50s when they started. They were 50 and broke. They were 50 and bankrupt. Whatever happened. Some people during the last recession, 2008, 2009, when everybody lost the real estate and whatnot, everything crashed.
Right.
And they found themselves at that point in their life when the bottom fell out.
Right.
And the podcast was about how 10 years later, now that they're in their 60s, they're financially free. So it can be done in a span of time, and it doesn't matter how late in life you start. It can be done. There are people who've lost it all and gotten their stuff together and got themselves on the right track. So we can do it. You all can do it out there, because so many others have done it. So there's proof, there's hope. Don't give up. Hang out with the Love, Space, and Time crew, and we all gonna get strong together.
So now that we're going to talk about our space timers. Now that we're actually in a place of being in a relationship with someone long distance, how do you set goals for your relationship as far as two people being apart, but the goal being to come together?
Let's see. I think that everybody has to have some form of a vision for
Mm-hmm.
themselves. And you should be putting yourself in the best position you as an individual can be in anyway. Same thing with me. We should both be looking to become the strongest individuals we can, so that when we come
Yes.
together, you don't have like, two people trying to go 50-50. You got two people
Mm-mm.
bringing 100%, and y'all are 200% strong, you know? So a big part of that is creating a vision for yourself. Where do you want to be 12 months from now? And you should get as clear and as vivid with that question as you possibly can. Really answer all of the tough questions, the areas that you procrastinate or hiding from now, or that you let fester long enough. Okay, well, what's that going to look like 12 months from now?
Yeah, don't be afraid to talk about those things that, just try not to keep secrets, because I was very reluctant to talk to you about the money that I was spending on plants. I was reluctant because I felt like I knew I was doing bad. I knew I was doing too much. And I had to come to a self-realization that, you know what? I can't keep spending all this money on plants. It's therapeutic, yes, but there are other ways to have therapy. So I figured out how
The
to,
green thumb looks good on you.
huh?
I said the green thumb looks good on
Thank you, Pookie. But I could not continue to spend money on plants. So I had to have a talk with myself, and realize that there are other ways to get plants
you.
without buying them.
Oh, look at that. Imagine if, honestly, most people, I guess, overlook the fact that a lot of the stuff that they're spending money on, they could do it without spending money. I mean, granted, you got to pay money for food. Yeah, you got to pay money for a place to stay. Yeah, you got to, there's certain things that you have to budget for, you have to spend money on. But there are so many opportunities out there for people to gain the resources that they need without spending. And if people thought that way first, we'd realize first how abundant we are, because everything we need is all around us. That makes those affirmations that we say real.
Mm-hmm.
We can really find things around us that we need, and we realize, man, I didn't have to expend so much energy or expend so much of my resources in the first place. So that's one thing to just keep in mind, and at least try to wrap your brain around that to begin with.
And one thing you helped me realize too, because I was definitely complaining about owing taxes. And you said to me, start a business. Start a business and have write-offs.
Many people don't realize. I wish I had the book right. I think that book is like way in the garage.
But starting a
But
small business, you can start a small business doing something that you, maybe a hobby, maybe something that you like to do, and start that business and use your home, have a home office for your administration. Use your car if you have one to do business, and your supplies. You have write-offs.
there's so many aspects of what we do for ourselves on a daily basis that, because you don't have a business, is just you just spending money. But
Mm-hmm.
imagine if your cell phone that you play words with friends and look at TikTok videos and all the stuff you do with your phone. Imagine if you were actually conducting business on that phone. Imagine if you were actually taking calls, making calls. Imagine
Mm-hmm.
if the text messages and emails that you send from your phone was actually for the purpose of being
Of your
profitable.
business. Mm-hmm.
Being profitable. That's an expense that you have to pay every month anyway, that can now count as a business expense. That's just an example, a simple example. I'm not trying to say that we're financial planners or advisors or anything like that. This is not financial advice. We are not that. But there are lots of resources out there that give people benefit,
Mm-hmm.
because you are trying to become what's called a productive contributing member of the society. And the government gives a lot of benefits and advantages to individuals who step up in that vein, step up as entrepreneurs to solve some of the problems of society. That's what going into business for yourself is. So there's loads that we can learn about that. If you all haven't joined Love, Space, and Time so that you can become a part of the group and play cash flow with us and get into our book club and whatnot, why not? This is where we're learning all this stuff.
Yeah, we definitely are the type of couple who gets involved in reading materials, listening to podcasts together, and formulating our master plan to take over the world.
Try and do what we do every day, take over the world.
Absolutely.
But
So, yeah, that's a great piece of advice. So, if you have a financial planner or a business coach that can talk to you about, starting a small business so that you can have write-offs and save some money in taxes, that's a great way to go.
Can't go wrong trying to learn some more. Come learn with us. So goal setting, right? Goal setting is definitely one of the things. It kind of ties in with the last point. You have to have a vision for yourself. At least start with what you want the next 12 months to be. But it goes back to what we were saying in the beginning. The attitude that people have towards money, the attitude that people have towards being wealthy or towards wealthy people, a lot of time that's got to change. That's the number one thing that's holding us back. You ever heard somebody say, has anybody ever posed you the question, well, if you could be rich, how much would you want? And people give the answer, oh, I don't want too much. Just enough. I don't need that much. The things that we tell ourselves. How are you ever going to get over the hurdle, over the barrier, if you're feeding that type of stuff to yourself?
I want to mention something too about the question about setting goals for your financial well-being, but I was thinking about this the other day, and I may have made a post about it on social media or in one of my affirmations, is that this society drives us towards consumerism. We want to have the latest iPhone. We want to have the fanciest car. We want the electric vehicle. We want the tin can Tesla. We want the shoes, the red bottoms. We want all of this stuff because we're trying to keep up with the Joneses. But you don't have to have those things to have a great quality of life, because it all starts up here.
That's right.
If you're able to be satisfied with good quality things that don't have to cost an arm and a leg, that don't cost an arm and a leg, who's to say that you can't be happy with that? It all starts with your mentality. If you know that you always have everything that you need, I mean, it's ridiculous. I've seen on social media, I think it was Balenciaga was selling a roll of duct tape as a
roll of duct tape.
It looked like a roll of duct tape, but you were supposed to wear it like a bracelet, and it was like $1,000. Just like, this is stupid. It's like somebody's sitting up in there saying, "Let's see what else we can throw on them to get them to buy this."
I bet you they'll buy this.
I bet you they'll buy this.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh! Like, just throw on a rag and put a label on it, and the people will spend. I mean, what was that last thing that was floating around about one of these so-called luxury brands? How they cost them $57 to make their particular product, but they sell it for thousands. That would have been a wake-up call for me if I had been spending money like that in the first place, but I don't. So I was just like, I feel sorry for the person who sees that.
I wish there was an easy way to give solutions and throw things out there for people, but there's so much of the culture nowadays is pinned on what other people are doing and how other people are going to feel about us if we're not doing that same thing. I look at trends, right? I get on this all the time. People expressing their individuality, right? But everybody's expressing their individuality by doing the same thing that everybody else is doing. So if everybody else has a certain kind of bag, if everybody else has a certain kind of hairstyle, if everybody else is wearing a certain kind of jeans or sneakers, how are you being individual if you're getting the same sneakers or same hairstyle or getting the same bag,
What did our mama used to ask us? If your friend jump off the bridge, are you gonna jump off the bridge with them?
You gonna do it too? Yeah, but
I mean, really.
people say no, but if you look at what they're actually practicing, we just following the herd.
Follow fashion. Follow
the
fashion.
Walking Dead. So that happiness,
dead.
like you talked about happiness. Happiness is what you do for you. It's not about what everybody else is doing. That's why I made it. I got comfortable with not even having a TV there. I went like 5, 6, I don't know, 6, 7 years without a TV. I had no need to watch, consume that much stuff going into my brain just all the time. Anything I needed to know, I mean, you got a phone. Go online, find out what happened in the moment. Or if you are connected to social media, people will be talking about what's going on if it's important enough. So you'll find out what you need to find out on.
And you know what? I was thinking about this the other night. I was watching, some of these streaming services. Of course, they pay for the free or the low cost streaming by having commercials every 2 minutes. And all of the commercials about pharmaceuticals. Yeah. So they want us to be sick all the time or have the mindset of, oh, I need this drug because my lip was shaking or my toe was itching and now I need this drug. Ain't nothing wrong with you. But you need to get up off the couch and go exercise.
Sometimes when I've seen those commercials, I don't even know what the medicine is for. It's like, well, what would somebody do this for? I know they talk about more of the side effects than they talk about the medicine.
Side effects are worse than what you was experiencing in the first place.
People don't realize.
No, thank you.
Just in terms of doing business, I started learning what the purpose of marketing is for and how marketing works. People don't realize these platforms that we're on, whether it's TikTok, whether it's X, whether it's Instagram, whatever the platform is, whether it's your cable channel, or the streaming service that you use. The purpose of that is not to give you something to watch. The purpose of that is to get your attention so that advertisers can reach you.
And sell you something.
If Netflix or Prime Video or whatever can get so many millions of people, advertisers will pay. That's all that's about. Take your mind back from these people who are just trying to suck on you like leeches.
And they do. They do. And sometimes it's very subliminal. We don't even realize why we wanted a Big Mac all of a sudden. But it was because we saw that commercial.
Or how the idea is put in your mind and what the ideal family looks like without the black man in the picture. The imagery and marketing, it's all programming. That's why they call what comes on TV daily programming. And part of that programming is the advertisements that you see. So don't sleep on that. There's always some message that is
always a message. And the goal to be a conscious being, an aware being, is to be aware that there is a subliminal message in everything that you see on a TV screen. Everything has a message that's underneath what you see at the very front. So you got to prepare your mind to say, okay, I don't need none of that. I don't need them pills. I don't need them drinks. I don't need any of that. I'm going to watch my show and whatever. And what I started doing was I would just put the commercial on mute.
All right.
Every time the commercial comes on, I put it on mute and go do something else. And then when I feel like it's been 2 minutes, I'll come back and continue with my show.
See, that's you. So, you are at least fighting back. There's so many other people.
Trying.
There's so many people who've given up the fight. They don't even blink. Their eyes are just they don't even get up when the commercials come on. They just nope. I'm not moving.
It will be traffic home to catch that show, child. I remember my big mama back in the day with all my children, and we used to watch all my children and the wrestling, the WWE with Dusty Rhodes and Ric Flair and all of them. Boy, you better not touch that TV. You would get the black knocked off you, like she was saying.
Wait, your grandmama was watching? She was watching wrestling too?
This was my great grandmother. So yes, we would watch wrestling. It was wrestling. Ric Flair was
Wrestling.
my dude, though. Woo! That's what he would do. Woo!
Hey, generation by generation. There's I can't remember. Oh, you know what? Speaking of marketing and how it's done, think about these large companies that have had people's attention for years. They know what they're doing. The smarter ones are creating children's content. Think about how how dependent children are now on YouTube. You can find pretty much just about any child's entertainment on YouTube. And
Yes.
now you have a generation that grew up just like grew up dependent on the TV, or grew up thinking that the TV was just a regular aspect of life. We got children now, we got a whole generation that all they know is look at
The
YouTube,
tablet.
pay attention to watching YouTube.
And now on
And
the tablet.
and if you're watching YouTube videos, that's the number one place for advertising to be done now. You can't even control it unless you're paying to not have the ads flashed in front of your face.
That's a
So
luxury right there, honestly, to pay extra to not watch it. But you can't just give the tablet to the child and leave them unsupervised, because once again, that subliminal programming is there. They should
absolutely.
not be able to sit there hours on end consuming all of this stuff. And then when you ask, okay, I need the tablet back, it's time for bed, and you got to deal with a temper tantrum. You got to deal with a terror.
Temper tantrum. You got to fight on your hands then.
So no, they need to get their little behinds outside and play. And you have to go sit on the step and watch them play and make sure they're safe and let them get all of that out, and then come back and monitor that screen time. It's very important. It's very important.
And of course, as it relates to financial literacy and learning about managing your money, that's just another way that consumerism, again, just being the people that have to spend money on stuff as opposed to taking that money and making it work for you, that's the program that's in place. So we're trying to get ourselves out of that trauma. We're trying to get ourselves out of that hamster wheel and onto a different track. Because if we're going to be empowered, if you're going to be of benefit to the person that you say you care so much about in this loving relationship, this long distance relationship, then you've got to put yourself in a stronger financial position.
Mm-hmm.
So it's worth delving into the past. What are some of the traumas that people have that they can have that surrounds about money?
I'm going to answer that question with a question. When you were growing up, did you have an allowance?
I don't recall having an allowance when I grew up. I didn't have an allowance. I started working early, as a matter of fact. I had both my parents worked. Both my parents, worked. Sometimes they worked multiple jobs, but I don't remember just having stuff handed to me. I remember stuff being provided. There was always day camp that we went to. There was always something that we had that my parents made sure that we had, but I don't remember getting an allowance.
Yeah, I didn't get an allowance either. And I could just hear my children in my mind now, because I remember them asking me about an allowance at certain points in their lives. And I'm like, I allow you to live here. What else you want? What else do you want from me? Like, I'm putting a roof over your head. Like, I'm making sure you eat and have clothes. Like, what is this allowance stuff? Like, that was such a foreign. If I had had more resources, I would have been happy to do that for them. In all honesty, I would have been happy to say, okay, every week you get $5 to do whatever you want to do with it. But it was such a foreign concept to me because I didn't get an allowance. That was white people stuff. White people gave their children allowances. We didn't do that, So, yeah, that was like, and mind you, I grew up in a time in the country, because your experience is different because you grew up in the city.
Yeah.
But I grew up in the country where, and you could walk to the store with 50 cents and come back with cookies and chips and,
right. Yeah.
and you thought you was doing something because you had 50 cents to go to the store and buy
Right.
whatever you wanted.
Really, whatever you wanted.
And we just thought that was the best thing, but you can't try to give a homeless person 50 cents. Try.
They'll call you out on what I'm supposed to do with this.
What? Right.
Yeah.
That goes in the coin jar to add up to something else.
Right. Eventually, if I get enough of this, maybe I can do something with it. You know what that example reminded me of when you asked about allowance. That brought to mind this saying. They say, hard times make strong people. Strong people make good times, but good times make weak people. And the weak people make hard times.
It's a cycle.
It's a cycle. So it's interesting because you have, and you can see how it played out from one generation to the next. You had people who grew up struggling, their parents didn't have much. So when they grew up, many of them, you have, both sides of the equation, but there are a lot of people who they wanted their children to have everything that they didn't have. So the idea about allowance, I'm just going to give you this money every week, every 2 weeks, or whatever it is. There are some people who take the flip side of the coin. And this goes back to what we started with. There's a difference between what wealthy people think and teach their children versus what, poor, middle class, or struggling people working from paycheck to paycheck teach to the next generation. There's some people who say, hey, I'm going to show you that the only way you get resources is if you do something to earn it, or if you do something that creates value for somebody else. So there's a different, that kind of goes into what could be a trauma around the subject of money, how it's supposed to come to you, and what you're supposed to do with it when you get it. There's some people who literally think that, if somebody's not doing it for me, it's just not going to get done because they didn't learn to do it for themselves. And then the idea that they would have to struggle and go through the difficulty of learning is just like unheard of. What? I'm supposed to learn something new? What you mean?
How do you think, this is totally off script, how do you think this whole conversation of 50-50 in a relationship, like how do you think that that's based in some type of trauma surrounding money? What are your thoughts on that?
Probably so, because if you are assigning yourself a 50% stake in something, you automatically either coming at it like you just not going to do your best, or like you literally are expecting somebody's going to do it for you. So somewhere along the way, whether we grew up that way or whether we just got into this, I think the larger conversation is where people always started looking at what's the government, what they going to do for us. Why are they doing this to us? They need to stop doing this. It's always giving the power to somebody else and then waiting to see what's going to happen. People who understand it takes two to make the thing go right. Everybody got to be giving it 100%. They don't wait for who's going to give something to them. So they know that they can't shortchange themselves by only giving 50%.
Right.
It's all or nothing. If you're dealing with me, you're going to get me firing all jets, me giving the best and trying to achieve what it is I'm trying to achieve. Because I'm not going into a relationship expecting you to do something for me. I'm expecting to be the good friend. So that means I got to get my weight up. I got to bring my A game. So I can have an A on my test. If you did 50% for me, I don't have an A on my paper. I got what do you get? What's a 50? That's an F, right?
Yeah, that's
on a test. That's an F. So I can't hold my test paper up like, well, I did 50% and she gave me 50%.
Don't want nobody care.
I can't be satisfied with that. Now it happens. Right. You got a partner, if you got somebody who is down with you, then whatever it is that you come up short on, they're willing to step up if they can. You know, that's gravy on the mashed potatoes.
Gravy on the mashed potatoes. I like that.
You don't just expect that that's going to happen and do nothing until it happens. So that's a mindset that people have to get over. And I'm not waiting on reparations. I'm not waiting on, some benevolent politician to come in and make it right. I
You're
noticed
waiting
that
on Jesus because Jesus paid the price. Now he gonna give y'all your money when he come back.
Jesus said, "You are the temple of the living God." What you
Right.
gonna do? It's on you. So everybody's got to take that responsibility for
I think,
themselves. But
and I think this is it can be a sensitive area when it comes to, two people and being involved romantically, and then you got to come out of the clouds of love and you're beautiful and you're handsome to come back and touch the earth and be grounded. Okay. And this is
right,
what's actually going on in my life.
how we gonna handle this?
Right. How are we going to handle this practically? So we have to give each other space and grace
Yeah,
and encouragement. If there's things that needs to be worked on, give each other space and grace and encouragement, because at the end of the day, if this is the person that you want to be with, then you're their support system, and you can't beat up on your support system. You got to encourage your support system so that in that 12 months that you were talking about, you can say, yes, I knew you could do it. You're in a better
yeah,
place. We're in a better place because you worked so hard, because
hmm
I worked so hard to present myself in a better way. So now when we come together, we don't have that baggage coming along with us.
right, right. That's the key, and I guess that's part of that trauma um, that that is real. That has to be dealt with. People have to approach it from a different mindset, and also understand that the goal of this is to create a safe space.
Mm-hmm.
Part of that trauma is how people were judged in the past, or whether they got condemned in the past, or whatever came at them, whatever experience they had to deal with that was so negative that created this new pattern that's
Mm-hmm.
got them where they are now. That's ultimately where it all starts. Somebody felt judged, somebody got judged or got condemned for how they came up short. So a big part of changing the mindset is creating a place where you don't judge yourself anymore, and where you don't judge anybody else anymore, and where you
Right.
don't tolerate judgment from anybody else, because you have to do what you have to do. And if you are honestly working on yourself and working with yourself, then trying to measure up to somebody else's standard, or that person who is not supporting you as they should, that ultimately their opinion can't matter when you
It
know
can.
you got to do what you have to do.
Exactly. Exactly. So yeah, take it easy on yourself. Practice forgiveness with yourself for the mistakes that you've made when you didn't know better. Now, when you know better, you got to hold yourself accountable.
Yeah.
But when you don't know better, okay, fine. I made that mistake. I know better now. That won't happen again. So I have to keep striving towards the goal, which is financial freedom, financial freedom, financial freedom.
Yes, indeed. If you don't know about the FIRE movement, check it out. Even if you'll hear the term FI, right? FI, FIRE stands for Financial Independence, Retire Early. Now, for the people who got this early that they can take advantage of, people who are in their 20s and in their 30s, they can look at, financial independence, retiring early. But like I said before, it's never too late. So maybe you can't retire early, but you can always strive for the goal of financial independence. So learning how to do that. And the basics of that literally is going back to what we said first, pay yourself first. Understanding that when you get money in, what's supposed to happen with it probably is not what you thought is supposed to happen with it. There's what did I hear? The difference between poor people, middle class people, and wealthy people. When they get money, poor people think the first thing you're supposed to do with money is pay the bills. They just pay the bill. No, no, no. Poor people think the first thing you're supposed to do with money is spend it on stuff that you need, right? So they
Mm-hmm.
automatically, as soon as it comes in, it's going out because I need to do this. I need to do this. They need to do everything and can't do nothing else. Middle class people think the purpose of money is to buy stuff that you really can't afford so that you can maintain a certain appearance. You have to have a house that's this big. You're this age, so you should have this house, this car. Your children should go to this school. You should be able. They live in that land. So even if they really can't afford it and it doesn't make the best sense, they think that when they get something, it has to go towards something that allows them to have a certain appearance. Whereas rich people or wealthy people understand that the purpose of money is to multiply. Money is to be multiplied. That's the purpose of it. So what they do with it, first and foremost, before anything else, is put some of it, if not all of it, to work for them. It has to grow. If you give me $100, I have to turn it into 200 or 1,000 before it's all gone. So
yep, that is a learning process right there. Switching the mindset, learning the tools that will help us to do the things that you just talked about. Because there's so many people out there that say that they have the tools to help you flip your money or buy this stock or buy that stock. You have to be wary of some of these people. Some people wake up every day to scam other folks and steal their money. So do your due diligence as far as the path and the tools that you're going to take. But there definitely are tools that can help you long term to build your money and get where you want to be.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's not, the situation is what it is. We're in the information age, and there are people who realize that they can become wealthy. They can make money by sharing the how of getting wealthy, which is kind of, you have to look at that with a grain of salt, or however that saying goes. Rather than just getting wealthy by doing what it takes to get wealthy, there's some people who make all their money claiming that they can show you how to
just talking about it.
Just talking about it. And, in the information age, you can learn from any way you turn. So you have to be mindful. It's not always necessary for you to spend money just to get information. That's not what you're spending money on. Spend money to implement the information that you get. Spend money to acquire and accumulate the resources that you're going to execute on, that you're going to actually use, the tools that you're actually going to put to work for you. But a lot of people don't realize that the idea of return on investment, when you're actually
ROI,
when you're actually, making an expenditure, that should equate to some revenue or some type of return that's going to come back to you. That should add some kind of value. If you're just spending money and it's gone, and okay, well, I saw the movie, it's gone. You'll never get that back. Or I wanted to have the most expensive meal I could possibly have. We spend on stuff that is not going to stick with us. Spend money on self-development. I was listening to a business coach, an entrepreneur. He detailed how in the previous year he invested $450,000 into his own self-development. I said, wow, so basically what that means is he spent money with coaches, he spent money with business mentors and different things like that. And he said what he realized at the end of the year is that he didn't invest enough in himself. The stuff that he got was good enough to make him more than that $450,000 that he had to invest in himself, that he had to spend. But he realized that when he does that, he reaps so much more of a reward. His return is so great from that's worthwhile investing in himself.
Yeah, I definitely believe in investing in yourself. Learn something new every day, learn a new skill, or hone the skill that you already have. And just, take the opportunity to be better every single day.
For sure.
So let's shift gears. Or I was going to ask you that question anyway. I'm glad you put it up. Can you see yourself as a wealthy Black man?
Absolutely. Absolutely. When I think of what it means to be rich, rich to me means the money, the cash flow that's coming in is greater than my obligations and my expenses that have to go out. That's when I would consider myself rich. So I can definitely see myself having more than enough. I can definitely see myself with accounts that equate to more than what it is I have to spend. And I can definitely see myself with excess cash. Excess cash.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing
Excess
wrong with
cash. There's nothing wrong with that. And I can see myself as wealthy as well. And I think about this often, like having enough to, like you said, having more than enough to take care of my responsibilities, and then being able to help other people without putting myself at a deficit. You know what I'm saying? Because so many
right.
times I have overextended myself because I was trying to help somebody else, but I
Learning
overextended
lessons the hard way.
yeah, I overextended myself, and I didn't feel bad for giving because I wanted to help. But on the flip side of that, I'm in a deficit. Now I got to make up the deficit because of my big heart trying to help somebody else. I see myself as a wealthy person being able to take care of my responsibilities and being able to help other people without overextending myself.
Mm-hmm.
That's the type of wealthy I want to be. So all of my stuff is taken care of. And if I get a phone call that says, hey, Miss Muhammad, so-and-so needs help with their college tuition, write out the check,
mm-hmm.
and it's gone. And
Yeah.
tell them I said, make me proud, with a note attached. Make me proud.
That's my idea of wealthy. Wealth, being rich means you can take care of you and everybody who's around you and everything that's going on right now. There's nothing that you have to do now that you can't do. You have the means to do that. Wealthy means you make decisions that affect future generations.
To me, that says philanthropy.
Yeah.
So I can be charitable. I can put people through college. I can, give away homes like you see some of the NFL players doing. They're buying houses for people.
Yeah. Building communities, building whole communities.
They're refurbishing communities, or just doing all these fantastic things. I want to be a philanthropist like that.
Yeah. And there's nothing stopping us from getting there except the mindset of limitation. If we can remove limitation from our own mindsets, then we can get ourselves to where we need to be. But it's never going to happen with wishful thinking. We got to act on what we know. We got to continually be learning so that we know more and can do more. We know better, we can do better. But we got to turn what we're learning in these conversations into action.
In the infamous words of that bald-headed baby, in the oracle's house, there is no spoon.
I forgot he was bald-headed. Yeah.
There is no spoon.
There is no spoon, right?
There is no spoon.
There's nothing standing in your way.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Wow. So we didn't even get to talk about planning for the visits, but I feel like the conversation we did have was enough to get people start the conversation with your partner about, okay, what are we going to do with our finances? Where are you? This is where I am. What can we do to help each other to get to where we both want to be and be a fruitful, wealthy couple?
Mm-hmm. I think it takes deliberate steps. I think it takes planning, and I think this was a good conversation to have. I'm hoping that more people can have these types of conversations, and because we have a sponsor that kind of makes a way for this conversation, we want to invite everybody to go and visit www.camnonservices.com, where the wonderful team over there puts this conversation right on Front Street. If you're an entrepreneur, if you're a small business owner, or even if you have a nonprofit group, having your finances in order is essential. It's you can't ride, you can't be all that your business goals are to be without putting the focus on finances. So visit camnonservices.com, check out the advice and the guidance that they're giving, and take advantage of the services.
Absolutely. I highly suggest camnonservices.com. And as we are about to end our show for today, fun facts, Vernon and I will be together next Sunday for this podcast.
Oh yeah. We will
That
be
is my happy
broadcasting.
days.
We'll be broadcasting again from the Atlanta studios.
Yes. So excited. So we will be on episode 12. I don't recall what the title of the episode is right now, but it's going to be fun. And looking forward to it.
Yep. I'm excited. So that's it, everybody. Episode 11 is in the bag. Thank you for joining us for Love, Space, and Time. Visit us at the Facebook group, Love, Space, and Time on Facebook. Where else can they find us?
We're also on YouTube at Love, Space, and Time Podcast. And we also have an Instagram page for you to interact with, Love, Space, and Time. So all of that is available to you, our viewers. And like and share, spread the word so that we can get this message out there that love does not matter. Oh Lord, I messed up.
Love doesn't matter?
No, love doesn't matter, but love is not dependent on where you are physically. I'll say that much.
There you go. We are loving across space and time.
There you go, babe. Loving across space and time.
No limitations here. So let's do the daggone thing. All right, y'all. Peace.